I'm Brian Fabian Crane.
And I'm Sebastien Couture.
And we're the co-hosts of Epicenter Bitcoin. We're a weekly podcast on Bitcoin news and developments. We were just at the Inside Bitcoins conference in Berlin. It ended yesterday, so it's Friday now, and we've had 2 really vibrant days talking to tons of people, doing lots of interviews, and we're going to tell you about the conference and our experience there. Sebastian, do you want to start?
Yeah, so I just want to say, first of all, this is kind of an unusual setting for us because usually Brian and I are talking on Skype, and this is the first time we do a podcast segment sitting across from each other.
That's right. Usually we're a few thousand kilometers away from each other, and we saw each other for the first time in real life this week, so that was really exciting too.
So what was your takeaway on the conference?
It was a very vibrant atmosphere. I think people are very excited. You can feel that there's this belief that we're on the cusp of something really big. I think that was one of the sort of main takeaways, was this great atmosphere, this great sense of beginning of something important.
Yeah, the impression that I got from speaking to all the people that we talked to there is that 2014 is the year Bitcoin blows up. This was my first Bitcoin conference, so my main takeaway is that the Bitcoin scene is very, very vibrant, especially the German Bitcoin scene, in contrast to France, where not much is happening. I mean, it's just beginning. Anyway, here in Berlin, particularly in Germany, things are moving along quite nicely. Another thing I noticed is that there were quite a few Americans there. Investors, entrepreneurs, people interested in Bitcoin for different reasons. And that tells me that Americans are realizing that there are things happening here in Bitcoin. So I think that's why there was such a high American attendance.
Yeah, and it's a very international scene, and I think that's exciting. I think it's exciting in general about this Bitcoin community. It's a really global thing. And I think that's great. One thing I want to briefly talk about that has been kind of surprising, and that is that there were only few traditional venture capitalists. So I've seen that in various contexts, where people talked about that we are on the kind of cusp of a wave of Bitcoin startups and a wave of venture capital money flowing into Bitcoin. I think of traditional VCs, I was only aware of Palmier from Hummingbird. But apart from that, there was a lot of Bitcoin investors who bought some Bitcoins and now they're involved in the Bitcoin scene, but they're not kind of from the traditional startup background. They're now trying to build Bitcoin companies. Maybe that's coming, and maybe that's more the case in the US, but here it wasn't where I expected it to be.
I think it was Matt Rozak who said this. For the time being, there's only about $100 million in VC money going to Bitcoin startups, which is nothing.
Yeah,
and so that's going to grow exponentially over the next year and over the years to come.
Yeah, we certainly expect that. That kind of brings me back to a different point, which I talked with Thomas Hessler, who's an angel investor here and the founder of a very successful company. And he's been looking at Bitcoin startups in Berlin. And we were talking about this. And that is that there's a very vibrant startup community here in Berlin. And there are a lot of successful startup, take it SoundCloud or a lot of e-commerce companies. It's very active, a lot of meetups, a lot of conferences. But of those people, none were at the Bitcoin conference. So I think this talks to a problem we have here, which is a real separation between the Bitcoin community and the regular startup community. So I think to really take the Bitcoin startups and the ecosystem to the next level, what's really important here is that we have more of an integration of just the people who have knowledge of building startups and the people who knowledge of Bitcoin.
And what do you think needs to happen for that?
People in the startup community, at least here, have not comprehended yet how important Bitcoin is and how massive this opportunity is if you're looking into building businesses. And I think that's the problem, because of course if they did, at least from my perspective, I'm not exactly objective here in this context, but from my perspective, if you did grasp this, then of course you would come to this conference. Of course you would, start thinking about how can I use Bitcoin to do something amazing. And then that's not happening yet, not on a scale at least. So I think what's needed for this to happen is education. So we need to reach out to the startup community, teach them about this. I'm giving a workshop in May at a large startup conference here on Bitcoin. So things like that are needed, where we go to where they are.
Yeah, we need to evangelize.
Absolutely.
And not only with startups, but just people in general, I think, yeah.
True. But I think there's a really big need, especially to evangelize with people in the tech community, the startup community, because they are the ones who are going to build the apps, going to build the applications, we're going to build the amazing things that will get us to mass adoption.
Now, just touching on mass adoption, the conversation I had with quite a few people is that we're on the cusp of moving towards mass adoption, like that hockey stick curve is going to start going up very soon. And in order for that to happen, we need to get out of this kind of technical aspect of Bitcoin and get into user services. So the usability of Bitcoin needs to become much better. And by usability, we mean that just the regular person can, create a secure, easy to use, accessible Bitcoin wallet, not have to worry about, scanning a QR code or dealing with addresses or what have you. This will make mass adoption occur. So we really need to kind of work, fill that gap in between the technical aspects of Bitcoin and the usability of Bitcoin. I mean, just look at sending an email today. I mean, most people that send emails have no idea what an SMTP server is. So we need to make Bitcoin become a seamless service. And I think once that happens, and I also discussed about this with someone, and she asked me, like, where do you see this conference in 5 years? Or where do you see Bitcoin conferences in 5 years? And my response to that was, well, I don't know if we'll certainly have Bitcoin conferences, but you're going to see Bitcoin moving into home and garden conferences or whatever, because, people from that community will create products and services around Bitcoin and cryptocurrency that can serve their needs. Okay, so I think that we're going to see Bitcoin move into other sectors as well, and not just stay kind of this niche thing.
I think that's going to be a big trend. I think you're touching on something interesting if you talk about where conferences are going, and that's something I've been watching with amazement. Is this explosion of the conference scene, and I mean we've seen this already. But it seems what's coming up is just of a whole different magnitude. So, we talk about exponential growth in a lot of contexts, but I think there are a few contexts where this is just so apparent and massive as in conferences. So I was talking with 5 different people at this conference that are each organizing a conference this year where they're expecting more than 1,000 people. So that's amazing.
And that's outside of the Media Bistro conferences. That's independent conferences or other organizations.
Exactly. And the Media Bistro people, they've talked about putting on, I think, 9 or 10 Bitcoin conferences this year alone. So it's astonishing. And I think they were mentioning at the next conference or at the conference they're doing in New York in a few months, they're expecting 3,000 to 4,000 people. And then there was a massive, big conference planned in Texas, in Ireland, in Chicago, in Bonn, in Germany. So it's astonishing.
That's crazy. So if you want to subscribe to our podcast, you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, or any other podcast aggregator. You can also find us on Twitter. We're at Epicenter BTC. And we'll be doing a series of episodes in addition to our regular Sunday episode over the next 15 days or so, where we'll be releasing a lot of this content. So we've got an episode lined up where we interviewed a bunch of people at Room 77, which most of you will know as the first brick and mortar establishment to accept Bitcoin. And we also have dozens of interviews that we did on the conference floor, just kind of informal interviews with people from the community. And also we'll be releasing some of the most influential talks that we participated in.
Yeah, and if you're interested in Bitcoin news and developments, you can also sign up for a weekly newsletter. So we send out a weekly newsletter every Friday where we analyze the news, what's been going on. So you can sign up for that at epicenterbitcoin.com/newsletter.
CryptoKit is the world's first Chrome browser Bitcoin wallet. It's the easiest, fastest Bitcoin wallet payment system. With a simple one-click install, it takes just seconds to get your wallet set up. And because CryptoKit finds the address and payment for you, there's no more fussing around or tab switching. CryptoKit is more than just a wallet. It comes with a preloaded PGP encrypted social network, news feeds from Reddit and Google, and up-to-date charts from exchanges. Finally, CryptoKit Directory allows you to make 2-click payments with any of the BitPay merchants. Once you install CryptoKit, you won't need anything else. For more information or to download CryptoKit, visit CryptoKit.com.